Okay. Oh, hi. You look
Bueller,
good today. You look beautiful. Look at you. You're so handsome.
thank you.
Look at that. Your skin is perfect.
Angelic, isn't it?
Are you using some kind of filter to make your skin look so smooth and beautiful?
All natural, baby. Come on.
Oh my God.
It's all in the genes, huh? Um,
Yeah.
I can't see you, Aunt Corya.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we need,
Why not? I know
yeah,
that little thing.
at the bottom. There we are. Hey, Bueller, we got everybody in attendance for today's class? Okay.
I hope so.
All right. Awesome. Um, Aunt
Look at
Corya,
these big look at these big glasses. My friend from New York gave them to me. Aren't they something?
yeah,
Well, I'm going to wear them because they
yeah.
help.
Very stylish. Glasses make me look smarter. I'm just speaking for my own experience, but glasses enhance my experience a little bit.
Where'd you
Um,
get all those rings? Let me see those.
I wore these for you. I wear them for
They're
myself, but
they're very handsome. What are these?
the pinky ring, if you look at the
Huh?
pinky ring, that's going to be the Carmel High School ring.
Okay.
Ring finger is UND graduate, and
Oh,
middle finger for everyone to
yeah.
see. Uh-huh,
Yes.
is is my parents' anniversary ring, Chucha Marie's anniversary ring.
Oh, I remember that. I took a picture of their hands together.
Oh wow, cool,
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm sure I still have it somewhere. You don't have that picture?
Um, we've got it in one of Mom's collages throughout the house.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. All
yeah.
right.
Um,
Cool.
but anyway, we've already begun the recording process. We've begun
Yes.
your close up for today's show. You're featured
Oh,
as episode 130 of JBK on air. It's an honor to have a family member on the program. Um, Chooch's living sister, my Aunt Corya, coming to us from Miller Beach. Is that right?
correct. Miller Beach, Gary,
Ah,
Indiana.
awesome. How long have you been up there?
30 years.
Yeah, you've been up there a while. Um,
I've lived in this house as many years as I moved previously. So I lived in like 27 different places from when I was a kid to when I
right.
moved in here. Now I've lived here for the same amount of time and not moving. I like that.
Um, and I should have asked about this family history, but we'll go ahead and document this now. Uncle Lee, he worked in a railroad situation up there, or no? Okay,
Your Uncle Lee, my late husband, Lee Channing,
okay,
was a conductor for Amtrak.
all right,
He worked both on the trains and in the yard, they call it, where they put the trains together. The consist, it's called in railroad talk. And he was skilled at both. And that made him valuable and wonderful.
okay.
He was skilled as a conductor because he was verbally gifted. He could talk like crazy. He was wonderful. My neighbor said, "What did that guy swallow the dictionary? Like he's just brilliant." And he could handle people well. Um, and he was just very good at that job. So that's the job that's on board the train where you take the tickets and run the train and make sure that everything is going. The engineer is in the locomotive, the front of the train, driving the train, but the conductors make sure that all the rules are being met and people are happy.
Okay.
So the other job in the yard is it's a kind of a down and dirty job where you're pushing trains together and making things work and working with other guys. And
Yeah.
that's on the south side of Chicago. So when we met, we both lived in the city and we decided to move out to Indiana. And Lee's thought or strategy was that he might be able to just jump on the moving train as it went past our area, which was sort of a joke because that doesn't really happen. But yeah, he was, he was in within an hour of the city.
Okay. Awesome. Something that we're going to learn more about too is your career as a teacher, professor,
Okay.
which we will delve more into.
Okay.
We have a family history of teachers.
Oh,
going
yeah.
going back to my grandmother, Beba, who was a journalism teacher and was always viewed as favorably among students as one of the coolest teachers at school.
She was very popular, and she started her teaching career. Well, she must have been in her 40s, maybe no, probably late 30s, because I was 16 probably when she joined the teaching staff at uh, Noblesville High School as the journalism instructor in charge of the newspaper and the yearbook. And she made me the editor of the paper, which was not a popular decision, but it was great for us because we'd work that paper at night after we got home from school and made it a very good publication.
Right.
And then I didn't pay much attention to the yearbook proceedings, but we always had a good yearbook.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was a great teacher. She was a lot of fun, and I think everybody loved her. I did. Everybody did.
How much of her teaching inspired you to be a teacher, seeing her do that?
Well, Mother was always in a leadership position. Even when I was a little kid, she was the leader of our scout troop. She was the leader of the day camp. Of course, when you're 9 or 10 years old and your mother's leading everyone in campfire songs, it's kind of embarrassing. But I came to understand that kind of role of like leading a group and being energetic and spontaneous. So I tried to use that in my own practices. Now, I didn't start teaching until I was in my 40s because I had a career first in television.
Yes.
I was promotion manager at WNDU, the NBC affiliate on the Notre Dame campus in South Bend, Indiana. That lasted 3 months.
Short-lived, yeah.
Oh, God. Then I worked in the computer animation phenomenon industry that was just coming alive in the late 80s.
Yeah.
And I worked for an outfit in South Bend called Computer Creations. And we were a pioneering group of aerospace engineers and artists. And I was the sales girl. So I got to go around showing our video on a little portable. I use the term loosely because I carried around a portable television and a big tape deck that I had to use to show our demo tapes. It was wild and woolly back then.
Yeah.
I was with that outfit for about 6 years. I could see the handwriting on the wall. We were getting squeezed from both ends, like buy it yourself, build it yourself, computer animation systems you could just buy off the shelf. And then there were big outfits like at Ohio State, for instance, that had a big lab, and they were bidding on all the same jobs that we were. So it was kind of rough. I went off on my own, so to speak, and had a bunch of different entities that I was representing, like directors and tape duplication. That's a crazy business. And another little animation house up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so I did that for a couple of years. And then I got a bid to come to Chicago and work for a really big outfit, a good outfit. Like I considered it the best outfit. And that was exciting. And they knew about me from a speech that I had given one day to a group of advertising executives. So that was kind of cool. They asked me to come on board and work with a new group that they were forming called the EDGE Group, the EADG, Effects Animation Design Group.
Mm-hmm.
And these were elite artists and really top-notch editors and people. So that was fun. I was there for a few years, like 3 or 4.
Awesome.
And then I got fired from them for whatever reason. But I got the same job with another outfit the next day. So, it was no biggie. And then we decided after about a year at that job was after I had met Lee, and we decided to move to Indiana. So when we came over here, I wasn't working in the city anymore. It was really a bit much of a commute. I mean, a lot of people do it every day, but for me, it was tough. So I thought, well, you know what I really should do, what I always thought I would do, was learn a lot about television and then go back and teach it at the high school level.
Right.
So I started looking for a high school teaching position, and few and far between, and not an easy system to break into. I found out it was, you know, I don't
Yeah.
know, it was hard to get a job. So I looked around and found Purdue University Calumet. This was in Hammond, Indiana. Now, I had graduated from Indiana University, so there was no way I was ever going to be affiliated with Purdue. But I went to this campus and they were very friendly and they were very nice. It was very clean. I remember it was very clean there. And they had a situation where I could start taking classes there. And I was under a government program that was sponsoring this. They would pay my tuition for me to take several classes to renew my teaching license, which had lapsed. So I thought, well, I better get that.
Mm-hmm.
So I started taking classes. I really liked it. I ended up staying, well, basically for about 20 years
Awesome.
because
Yeah.
it was a nice campus. And I ended up becoming a continuing lecturer at the Communication and Creative Arts Department. And eventually, I think rose through the ranks to be the drama instructor. So that was really my niche. That was fun. I was very happy. So I did that for like 10 years. I got to put on plays and do acting classes and theater appreciation and things like that.
Yeah.
That's sort of the long and short of it. Did I veer off too quickly?
Well, we'll delve deeper into parts of it because one story
Okay.
that I can recall, and I've already asked my radio professor Scott Eaker his biggest mistake of his career, but one that I can recall you making when you were at Notre Dame was playing the
Oh,
football promo.
oh,
I think the
oh,
statute of limitations has passed. So if you want to
okay.
document this story, we can,
Oh, well.
or not. It's
Okay, picture this. I mean, the station was located in a Quonset hut on the campus. Okay, so it wasn't a big place.
yeah.
And my job was to schedule all the promos for anything that we were doing, games that we were carrying or whatever.
Right.
And so, yes, I was at work on a Monday morning after an unfortunate Notre Dame loss over the weekend. And the promo for Watch the Game came on as I was walking down the hall because I had misscheduled. I'd put one on for Monday when the game would be over. So that was totally embarrassing. And yeah, I made a number of mistakes there.
Okay.
It was a good experience, though, all in all.
Yeah.
I
Are there
learned a few things.
are there any other mistakes that stand out? I mean, not that we're gonna highlight all of those, but any
Oh,
that are noteworthy.
oh my gosh. Okay, one I did teach the basic communication course.
Right.
That's the one that everyone has to take. And at Purdue, it was a hybrid course, which meant half of it was interpersonal and half was public speaking. So we're on the interpersonal part, and I thought it would be interesting for the students to see a film called In Search of Fire.
Okay.
And this is an old movie about cavemen. And I thought they should see this because people were communicating. They were just using grunts and groans and pointing and laughing. And so I wanted to show them that communication has evolved.
Sure.
Well, there's a scene in it where one of the men approaches a cave woman. Let me put it this way, from behind and
Oh wow.
around. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, and what I forgot that was in that scene. And so what I did is, this was in the old days where you could just speed something up with a remote. So I put it on fast forward, which just made the action more frantic. And we got, we didn't get past that. It was crazy, crazy. So things like that would happen probably because I wasn't paying attention to everything. If I would have watched that whole movie again, Quest for Fire, that's what it was called. Quest for Fire. So that was funny. I suppose towards the end of my play producing and directing, I had entered into a relationship with a nice gentleman. This was some years after my dear husband died, and John Wood, who's still my boyfriend.
Hi, John. Big fan of the show.
Yeah. He had written a play about the life of Timothy Leary, the guy who was the proponent of LSD back in the 60s and 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought that would be a fun play for the kids to put on. And I mean, the guy had a PhD from Harvard or someplace. I mean, he was, despite his unsavory relationship, he was an academic, just like all the other folks that I work with. Well, we put that on, and I would say that was the writing on the wall. But anyway, it was not a popular decision with the faculty.
I'm just curious. I also asked Scotty for this question, and college professors are always looking toward their calendar to see when their available times are. Do you have any suggestions for time management for college students or anybody else?
Wow, that's a good question. Time management, probably not my long suit. I think that I got the knack of it. Here's how I learned to be able to do it. When I would be missing a document or some element of my lecture, I would get this panicked feeling in my stomach, and I really didn't like that feeling. And I realized that in order to avoid that feeling, I needed to have all my ducks in a row. You have to line up your material. You have to have all your lectures put together, the materials that you're going to use for them, visual aids, etc., all have to be in places where you know where they are. And learning to do that, using my time to make sure that was all in place, helped avoid that feeling. I also learned later that if I forgot something, the students didn't know.
Yeah, that's great.
It's all new to them. So they didn't know I'd skipped, the Roman theater, whatever. It didn't matter. So I started to just realize that this is all in a flow, like it's all working together. They're learning, I'm learning, and so not to worry.
Well, and this is still remarkable to me. Some people would rather die than give a public speech
Oh yeah.
to folks.
Oh yeah.
What suggestions do you have for folks who are having some fear there?
Well, I have dealt with every situation of stage fright. And okay, just right off the bat, don't pick a topic like drunk driving if your best friend was killed by a drunk driver. Because what happens is you break down in the middle of the speech. And if a student would come to me and say that's the subject they want to discuss, or the 5 stages of grief and their grandmother just died a month before, you're emotional already when you're in front of an audience. And so this just exacerbates the situation. So I would advise them to stick with topics that are not going to be heart-wrenching for them. The idea that they're prepared, very much so, that helps to offset the stage fright. If they're extremely nervous, then they just have to just swallow it big and go for it, because this is a speech course that everyone has to take.
Right.
And so, a lot of students would put off the course until their second semester of their senior year. And I would see these kids come up and stand behind the podium, and their knees were literally knocking. But somehow we would work together to find an appropriate topic, help them prepare extensively, have good notes, don't read this out loud, talk from the heart, tell your audience what you want to tell them, and you'll get through it. And they would.
One pet peeve of one of my professors was when someone would end a speech saying thank you. Is there a better way to wrap up a speech than saying thank you?
Well, there's one way that's worse, and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. I would say to them, if you say that's it, I'm going to give you an F. So, of course, they were terrified that they'd say that's it. And I've heard myself say that a time or two over some kind of delivery that I was giving. Thank you is appropriate, but, it's sort of blah, sort of meh. I always called it the bow tie ending, which is that you take some element from the beginning of your speech, bring it down to the end of the speech, and tie a bow around it. So you might refer back to your attention getter and say, so that's the rest of the story or whatever it might be to end it and have it be plausible.
Okay. I used to get kind of amped when President Obama would give a speech. Are there any folks that make you feel inspired or cause some sort of feeling when they speak?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, I'm trying to think about anybody currently, not really. Unfortunately, there aren't too many currents. I liked Obama. I thought he gave a great speech. I can't really think of anybody at the moment. I might come back to that.
Right. Well,
That's a good question.
Because he's such a historical figure and he's been in the consciousness of folks for so long, how would you evaluate former President Trump's speech style?
Oh my God. I would give him maybe a C minus, probably a D plus, because he doesn't really say anything. Yeah. He says the same things over and over. It's two parts of a sentence that he puts together. It'll be bumpa, and then he connects it with an is, and then he says disastrous or fabulous, whatever it is, one or the other, disastrous or fabulous. So blah, blah is disastrous, blah, blah is fabulous. So he has no rhythm. He doesn't really say anything. He has no facts, nothing. He is repetitive, and he's not boring because he's so simple, but he's inflammatory at the same time. So people like that. The common denominator is I don't have to think much if I'm listening to this guy. I just have to follow him.
Well, and one way to, I think, accurately measure someone's ability to speak is to look at the speech in a written form and read it. Which, if you read Trump's speech word for word as a ongoing process, it's very confusing.
Oh, it's wonderful. When I see that on TV as a crawl on the screen while they show a picture of him, I just love it because it just shows this guy has nothing. He has nothing. Doesn't make any sense.
I guess anyone can be president. He's shown that for sure. If nothing else. What have you learned about yourself as a result of being a teacher, professor?
Well, I did really enjoy the opportunity to have an audience. Okay, that's one thing. To hopefully pass on some nuggets of wisdom or skill, ways that they could interact with each other and maybe make a difference. I was talking about this yesterday at my book club, and we were talking about the younger generation, which I guess we're talking about you, not you specifically. Sure. And that I'm quite concerned that they're losing the ability to speak. Now, you have that ability, thank God. But they're not speaking, they're texting, and there's a big difference. And they'll argue, oh yeah, we're communicating, but losing the ability to read other people, their facial expressions, to be able to interact, to understand cues, to ask good questions. This is a skill that will perpetuate the human race. I'm worried texting will not.
Yeah.
How are you going to make a baby with a text? Okay, basically, I'm saying.
Yeah. Well.
To be able to meet someone, to pursue them, to make a relationship happen, takes hundreds, thousands of minute interactions that all have to be measured and weighed and acted upon or not.
Right.
And texting doesn't allow for that. Not much. There aren't enough emojis in the world to make real emotion.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned that I don't know.
Well, one practice that my generation has gotten really good at is ghosting, is what it's called, where you'll try to interact with someone. Hi, I'm Jimmy. How are you? And you just don't hear anything from the person, or you'll be talking to them, and it will be a normal exchange, and you go to continue the exchange, or at least see if there's anything else there, and nobody replies. I think technology has allowed for communication to be ignored. More than it is than in days past, so
Sort of a cyber eye roll kind of thing, or a
right.
side eye, and they're gone. Is that how it is?
Well, and another thing I deal with from time to time is like group chats, the
Oh
constant
yeah.
notifications. It gets to people of like, leave me alone, I don't really care what y'all are saying. So I think we get so attached to our phones already that it's sort of a becomes like a third arm. Is the way I've described
Oh,
it. You
definitely.
know what I
Oh,
mean?
yes.
So
Well, a friend of mine right now is going through a tough time. I've known her less than a year, but we've gotten to be close, and she's not interacting now as much interpersonally, not taking phone calls, no visitors, and it's quite concerning. But because we did have and still do share a strong basis for
mhm.
communication and interactivity, that I'm sure she'll come around, but it's quite noticeable, that she's not interacting. So that's kind of sad.
um let me see. Did you ever do a musical? I mean,
Oh, yes.
Dad was certainly musically inclined. I didn't know if you
Oh, yeah.
were a singer and did that sort of performance.
Oh, was I in a musical? In
Yeah.
junior high school, I was in a musical.
Okay.
Uh, in When I was teaching, yes, musicals were part of the uh, program. And luckily, I had a musical cohort, the woman who taught the music classes at Purdue. Now, our styles were radically different. I mean, I told you I did the Leary play. She did Snoopy. Okay. So, I mean, you can see we were like miles apart. However, she was very good and she was fun to work with because she was super professional. She loved the kids. Um, when I met Mr. Wood, we were in search of a musical, and this other lady and I, and it turned out that John had a musical that he had produced, I think once or maybe twice,
Mm-hmm.
called Children of the Earth, that he had written, and a friend of his who was unfortunately had died, but he did the music. So the music tracks were available, and we ended up putting on that musical. That was really, in some ways, my first foray into musicals, and we had a blast. I mean, it was a really original, interesting. The story is like mythical animals that are trying to save the planet from destruction by the burning people who are us. And there were characters like a platypus, a lemur, a spider, a jungle cat, a swan,
Mm-hmm.
all these kind of interesting. An old tortoise that would read from a big book. And it was really great. The kids loved it. We had a really good time with that show.
um, The Blues Brothers is the best musical of all time. I'll argue that till the end of time.
Well,
Uh,
you would call that a musical?
I would, yes. It honors folks that played blues, including Cab Calloway, who
Oh,
lived long
that's true.
enough to actually perform his song at the end. What about that? I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's
No.
good. Okay, I go along with that.
Um, since you are a drama coach, a drama teacher, who are some actresses that you enjoy watching?
Oh, I lately I love this guy on TV that's in the show Tracker. He's very good looking. I don't even know his name. Somebody told me he was on This Is Us, which is something I've never seen. I don't know.
Okay.
Lately I've been watching a show that they canceled. I'm so upset. So Help Me Todd was the name of this.
I
And
know you love that
Marcia
one.
Gay Harden, who's really good in it, very funny. And this kid, I forget his name, something Aiken or Arkin or something, plays her son. Well, I am so disappointed that they canceled this music or this TV show because it's really fun. And she's good. She's very good. Well, people like Kevin Kline and Meryl Streep, people like
Mm-hmm.
that who are top notch and fantastic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
People of my generation, like Dustin Hoffman and people like that, are great. But TV stars, well, last night I saw a show called Elsbeth. It's it's this girl, I forget her name, Carrie something or other. She's a kind of an over the top actor, but she's really good because she's playing a character who's very odd and quirky and weird. She has a very strange wardrobe. And last night there was a man on there who he's been in Broadway shows because I've seen him at the Tonys, a black man who is brilliant. But these characters in this show, for the most part, are really over the top, like stage actors who are doing TV. So it's kind of an odd mix because mostly television stars, if you will, are kind of low key. Like John, for instance, did a lot of television, and television acting is different than stage acting. I mean, you're whispering a lot of the time when you're doing TV because you're all mic'd up.
Mm-hmm.
On the stage, even though you're mic'd, you're still bellowing, right? You're like opera.
Mm-hmm.
So voices and characterizations are different, television compared to stage. I don't know. Like I said, I like this guy because he's really hunky. The
Okay.
one in Tracker.
I think that's the reason why people like this show. They like me. They just like me smiling at them.
That's right. You're hunky.
Yeah.
I told you that woman in Boston knew you
I'm known in different area codes.
all
That's for
over the
sure.
country. There I was in Boston. I mentioned your name. She turned around in her seat and said, "You're Jimmy Kennedy's aunt." Oh my God. She went crazy.
That's what they all say with JBK on air, which is obviously your favorite podcast.
Oh, well, yes.
Let's see. Hold on one second. One guy that you might have seen him in Mr. Selfridge. I saw Jeremy Piven doing stand-up comedy, and um, in the middle of the show, the microphone ended up dying. But he talked about how The Rock was the best actor in the world, and he had never taken an acting class.
The Rock.
And his joke really came to fruition because when the microphone died, he goes, "You know why you guys could still hear me? Because I took an acting class and I could project my lines."
Not only that, his father, Vern Piven, was an acting coach and drama person in Chicago for years. And some of John's friends who are also in the theater would always kind of poke fun at Vern Piven because they'd lower their voice and say, "Yes, I'm Vern Piven," and be very exaggerated. So yeah, that kid grew up in an acting family.
Yeah. Well, and it reminded me of Mom and all the crap she has to deal with me talking to her. Jeremy also told a story about how when he was on Entourage, he played this real brash, lawyer type, and he would always exchange lines with his mom, and I mean these were vulgar lines that he would read to her, So he's like, what an experience that Mom had to go through with me. Yeah,
I saw him in a film the other night called Lucas. It was just sort of an older movie about a kid, Corey Haim. He was like a kid actor that probably didn't do after that. But he was in that movie, and he was playing a football star. You don't think of it as muscular, but he was when he was a kid. And it was all right. I mean, yeah.
I also remember him on the Larry Sanders Show. Hey Now. He was one of the writers on that show that would run around.
Wow.
Let's see. What else are we getting to? I know you're from the Woodstock era, the music that I dig now. What are some artists, some music that you listen to from time to time?
Back in the day, I liked Procol Harum, Rolling Stones, the Beatles, of course. All the people that played in the movie Woodstock, I idolized. Jimi Hendrix, oh my God, I was just crazy about Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
When I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there's a room dedicated to Jimmy, that's round, and you can just lay in the middle of it on the floor and see Jimi Hendrix projected on the entire screen above you. It's an awesome experience. I like Janis Joplin. She was hot.
She was
I
cool.
liked Jefferson Airplane. I liked a lot of those groups. They were fun. I saw the Rolling Stones live. I saw the Who live.
Wow,
I
man.
saw the Beatles live. Um, I saw a guy named John McLaughlin or something like that.
Hmm.
He played guitar that was so stratospheric. It was almost like you can't even imagine that somebody is making a sound like that. It was outrageous. Um, I saw a lot of groups, not a ton, but
Yeah.
um, the people that still go to these Grateful Dead concerts, even though I don't think they're really even the Grateful Dead anymore. Else,
Right.
I don't know. I think they're stuck in a time warp, to be honest. But
Well, without Jerry Garcia, it's not really the full Grateful Dead. You know, you need him to be there. Um, and what I don't think I've documented this story yet, and I don't mean to be braggadocious. It's not like I was there, but Chooch did see Jimi Hendrix before he passed. He
he
graduated
did.
in '68, and he said that he had saw Jimmy after that. So it had to be either '69 or '70.
Wow.
Yeah, but he said that he
That's
did
awesome.
see him.
I didn't know that. Oh my gosh, he saw him live. Wow.
And not that I'm mad at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Huey Lewis isn't in there yet, and they need to get him in there.
Oh yeah, he was good. I liked him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Um, and obviously you were a big fan of Chooch's band, Chooch and the Enchanters.
Well, sure.
uh, do you have a favorite song or cover that Dad would do that you recall?
Not really good with names of songs.
Soul Man was
I
the
don't know.
one for me.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
always great.
yeah,
I mean, just that he would be playing in Noblesville at those big street fests that they would have,
yeah, yeah.
just be so excited and proud. And, my, it's funny, my whole persona would kind of change when I would come back to Noblesville because there I was Chooch's sister.
Right.
Up
Yeah.
here I'm whoever I am, but there I'm Chooch's sister. And I would just be so proud of him to that what he was doing and how he was able to do it. And one time I hired him to come up here and do his one man band show
Yeah.
for an event that we put on up here. And he was terrific. And I have a lot of still photos of that event. I'll have to send them to you
Yeah.
because he was
Sure.
playing, how he did when he played by himself, and he had that whole accompanying uh material that he'd gathered and put all together. And I don't know how he even learned how to do all on his own. He did. He figured it all out on his own and was getting these tracks from some guy in London. And I don't know. It was amazing
Yeah.
how he amazing.
Renaissance man could do anything. Could do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like I already asked you this, but we'll document it here. You play an instrument, Corey? Did you ever take time to learn an instrument?
When I was a hippie, I played the kalimba.
Oh,
The
hey, all right,
kalimba is a small wooden box with prongs that you pluck with your thumb,
right.
and it makes a kind of a waterfall kind of sound.
What's the country of origin for the kalimba?
Africa, I think. But
Okay,
the
all right.
ones that are
Close to it.
produced uh, nowadays, of course, are very highly refined.
Okay.
My guess is they started out as like hollow gourds with prongs of some kind. Must have been into the metal age because I don't think plucking bones would make a lot of good noise. But prongs of metal would then, resonate in the hollow bowl. I played that a lot. I think it was just a pastime. It was fun. I never got to where I could play a song on it. I would just be improvising.
I vividly remember you buying a kalimba for Chooch, and I think Dad had a rain stick or something, and y'all had
Oh
like
yeah.
a jam session of
Oh,
varying
did we?
types. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I still have a rain stick. I still have my kalimba.
There you go.
When I would teach students, sometimes we would do just random musical exercises where I would give them, I have a collection of just rhythmic sort of toys, I guess you'd call them. But we just pass those out and just get a rhythm going and play that for a while so that we could see that we are all together, we're on the same page. And it was fun. We'd do that.
I know that you're an encouraging teacher, but I hate to see professors that discourage students. How important is it for when you're in education to be motivating toward your class as opposed to being negative?
Well, it's extremely important. I learned that the hard way when I was teaching high school for a brief period of time, about a year. It was the worst job I ever had. Uh, I would get so angry because I had taught college for several years, and then I taught high school for a year and a half. And these kids were just so different than the college students. And they weren't appreciative. They weren't motivated. I didn't know what to do with them. I'd get really angry. I had a kind of an aluminum clipboard that I was using for stuff, and I started banging it on the railings of the auditorium and bent it. That was my proof that I had gone over the edge. Okay. Like I didn't know how to deal with this age group, I guess. I found out they weren't my audience. I left that position and I went back to teaching college, and I was there the rest of the time. So what I found then was, we called it the sandwich method, kind of a dumb name, but you have to do some critiquing, but you put a slice of, you did that really well. This needs improvement. And that is a good way to end your speech. So we kind of build the sandwich effect. And they seem to respond to that. I heard some really brilliant speeches in 20 years of teaching college. I can still remember this one that was so good. This kid, he told me that his speech topic for his persuasive speech was going to be everybody should have a box of Crayolas, 64 Crayolas with a sharpener in the back. I said, that's weird. What? He says, that's what I want to talk about. And I wanted to tell him, well, that sounds okay. Go ahead, have at it. It turned out to be one of the more brilliant speeches that I'd ever heard. And this is like 20 years later, I'm remembering this. So it did stick out. It wasn't about the Crayolas. It was about being open to possibilities, about using everything in your color palette to make your life work, to be sure you have a good tool like a sharpener in the back. He was really a great kid. I don't remember his name. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I want to get to more positive stories because we've talked about the blemishes certainly enough. But one thing I want to mention, when Chris Farley was a communication major at Marquette University, he was giving a speech, a how-to speech is what it was supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
And he's talking to his roommate, and he's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And the roommate's like, I don't care what you do, Chris, but you got to use beer. Okay, that's that's the one caveat you got to use. So he brings a couple beers to class, opens one, and the teacher's like, what the hell are you doing, Chris? Like, and he's like, it's for my speech, So he ends up going outside the room, screaming like an animal and pulling his shirt over his head and acting crazy, throwing papers on the floor. Ends up throwing the beer against the wall and says, how to get someone's attention by Chris Farley. So usually the unconventional speeches are the ones that you remember most with Chris
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, not to belabor the point, but I do remember one how-to speech. A girl told me she was going to show us how to make elephant ears in the classroom.
Oh, all right.
And I thought, well, that sounds delicious. Yeah. Until the speech day came, and as she was walking across the room with a vat of boiling oil, did I suddenly realize this could be a disaster. What if she falls? What if the oil explodes? What if? And so that was a learning experience.
Did it? Or it held together?
It held together, but I realized you got to be really careful. You can't have anything dangerous taking place during a speech. And even benign things like a guy was going to show us how to put together a doghouse or something, and he had a hammer, and I thought that could go in my head. So no tools, no guns, no hammers, no nothing. You can't have things.
No power tools. I do want to document this because it just popped in my head, and maybe you were there. I'm sure Dad told you this story, but do you remember when somebody brought their pet snake to class and had them watch it?
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
Where was this? In Noblesville?
I think Dad was either in middle school or high school. I mean, it was enough that he was conscious for it. And a kid, he had lived on a farm. It was more farmland in Noblesville than it used to be. And
Oh yeah.
he brought his pet snake with a chicken inside the cage, man. And like
What?
the snake ended up eating the chicken right in front of the class, man. It was wild. Yeah.
No, I don't
yeah.
remember that.
I didn't know
That's
if yeah.
awful.
Well, not to introduce animal brutality on the program, but
Well, yeah.
I do. Another thing I remember too from science class, we dissected cow eyes. That was the other kind of gross thing.
What? Oh no.
Like,
Oh, that's awful. I think we did frogs, but not cow eyes. That's gross.
I think I dissected a frog too. My class is like one of the last to actually do actual dissections. I think they're all virtual now. I don't want to hurt anybody.
Oh, well, yeah. Of course, take all the fun out of it.
Yeah. But let's see. Is there anything else we want to get to? Best live concert you've already mentioned. Oh, being May, I wanted to ask you, do you have any experiences with the Indianapolis 500?
I went to the 500 when I was in high school. I think I was 16, and my boyfriend, Carl John Hash, invited me to go with him and his friends, and we went to the 500. All I really remember is that the girlfriend of the other guy, made really good chocolate chip cookies, and I ate all of them. That is all I really remember about that race.
Okay.
I don't know.
Were they special cookies?
They were just
Okay.
just regular chocolate chip, but they were really good, and I ate a lot of them. I remember Mother talking about going to the race one time in a special seat, like Dad had won special seats, maybe in a poker game, or maybe it was a prize for selling insurance or something. But they got to sit in one of those special box seats where you have lots of
Right.
champagne and stuff floated in. And other than that, I don't have a lot of interest in it. My friend Frank from the Netherlands, that's on his bucket list. He wants to come over from Holland and go to that race. And he was going to a couple of years ago, and then it was the pandemic, so he couldn't come.
It
And I
is
haven't communicated with him lately.
it is a one of a kind event that a lot of people come to Indy to
Is it
see.
going to be on Monday or Sunday?
Should be on
Isn't it?
Sunday.
It's on Sunday, this coming Sunday? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could be. I think it's been rained out before, where it's been pushed to the next day, but
Oh, yeah.
should be the weekend. Is what it normally is.
So do you go to it, or have you been?
No. See, I mean, there are folks from the family that go, but normally we go to Marty's and have the chili dogs,
Right.
the coney dogs. So
Yeah, it's quite the thing. My next door neighbor, with whom I don't get along, but I do notice that he goes to this every year, and he used to rent a giant RV and go down there. This time the RV is gone. I don't know. I guess they didn't get one, but he's gone, which is nice. So I'm always glad when they leave town.
well, you know me, Corey. I hardly drive myself, so the idea of going to a track to watch other people drive is not something I necessarily enjoy. But God bless anybody who wants to take the time to be there.
I think it's an odd thing, but everybody
Well,
loves it that goes.
it's the hottest day of the year too. On like a on a tarmac. Like it's not, it's not a place I would want to be necessarily.
No.
All right. So again, we are at I just want to document this for historical purposes. I think we are at a tipping point in this country, especially when it comes to education, and very important that we are aware of what's going on. What is your advice to teachers today to best help them?
Well, I think that students need to read more than they do. And I think they need to read. This is funny that I would say this because I'm the person in the book club that never reads the books. I'm not a big reader. I watch a lot of television, but I think that students don't have the ability to take something that's written and dig deeper into it to see greater insights about that. And somehow teachers have to teach the big picture instead of just their subject matter. So I'm, uh, I don't know how to put this exactly. I mean, when I was teaching theater appreciation, I would try to the best of my ability, teach some history of the world as theater evolved from the, Romans, the Greeks and the Romans through the Renaissance, etc. Like how politics and um, religion and all different factors played into theater production. It wasn't just about plays and playwrights. It was about the world at large and how it would play out on the stage. I don't know that teachers do that. I would hope that they do, that they see beyond their subject matter as to how it applies. I've been reading an interesting book lately called Super Communicators. This is a really good book. Actually, I think you would like it.
Probably would.
And it's all about, it's on the New York Times bestseller list right now. And it's about how some people have the ability to ask deep questions, to elicit responses from the folks they're having a conversation with, that the whole process becomes very enjoyable because the other party they're reminiscing or whatever. And that is a skill. And this person is positing that this skill could be taught. It's not just something that some people have and some don't. It can be taught. And so he has a lot of research in this, and particularly I was drawn to this one study that was done by a couple of communication professors who devised a set of 26 questions that they would have people ask each other. And the exercise they would put together would be two complete strangers. I don't know if they were sitting back to back, but it was kind of like that. And then they would ask each other these questions. And the questions would elicit incredibly great responses because they were not, where'd you grow up? It was like, what event when you were growing up had the greatest impact on you? It was like a deeper question. And they found that these questions and this activity brought people together in a very unique way, like beyond anything they'd experienced, to the point where a couple of people ended up getting married like a year later. They got to know each other so well through this exercise that they, were completely simpatico. So I don't know why I bared off on that, but communication and being interesting involves knowing a lot about a lot of different things. I mean, I watch Jeopardy every day, and I'm always amazed I'm most amazed when the contestants can go across the board instead of up and down, because that means they're going from one subject to something else completely different within seconds, and they still know all the answers. I find that amazing, because they can just jump from one thing to the next. Amazing.
Is Ken Jennings the best Jeopardy player of all time?
Yes, and he's a very good host. He's a really good host. That Maya Bialik, I wanted to just slap her. She was just terrible. No, she was terrible. You know why? For one thing, she always waited too long to tell you if you were right or wrong. And I'm talking a nanosecond, but it was always too long.
Okay.
No, she was not good. He's great. He's very good.
Aaron Rodgers, that his time on Jeopardy has sort of soured with where his reputation is now.
What happened with him? I don't think I saw him.
Oh, it's too little time on today's tape to get into Aaron Rodgers, but I
Oh,
remember
okay.
he was one of the folks that they cycled through, right, to replace Trebek. Wasn't
Oh,
he
no.
one of those
Oh,
guys?
you're kidding. Oh, no. He was going to be the host?
Yeah, he was like one of the
I
guys
can't,
one of the people they were trying out. You
I
know,
didn't know that. Oh my God,
because
no.
he's an intellectual. For people that
Oh,
don't know.
well, if he's going to be the running mate for Trump, then, oh yeah, those two are going to be a comedy show for sure.
Yeah, well, no, it'll be a running mate for Kennedy. Giving the Kennedy name.
Oh,
Yeah,
Robert Kennedy. Oh, that's right.
yeah.
Who is Trump going to pick, do you think?
Ivanka. I don't know.
They don't even speak anymore. They don't, do they?
Keep it in the family. I mean, with Mike Pence, it didn't end very well with him at the very end. So, yeah,
Mike Pence.
I'm sorry that
Oh,
we veered into politics, but it's
oh,
too
that's all right.
it's too relevant to not mention.
That's all right.
All right. Since you've given your advice to teachers, what's the best advice that you've received in your career?
Well, I have to think back to my mentor, Dr. Y. Jean Chambers. I came to her still working on a master's degree, but I had to take her voice and diction class, which I walked in, and being a white girl from the Midwest, I just thought I had it made. Like, I'm not going to have to practice like these other people because I speak perfectly. And Dr. Chambers had us do a little exercise, and then she'd analyze our voices and what we had to do. And so I did mine, and she said, "Oh, my dear, you have a lot of work to do." And I was shocked. She said, "Oh, yes, those muddy Midwestern accents of yours are terrible. And you can't help it. You're a Caucasian from the Midwest. We're going to work on these muddy sounds and round out some of those vowels." And I guess she humbled me. And I realized I had a lot of work to do to be a good teacher. And she was a great teacher. She was really funny and very innovative and very tough. So the advice that she gave me, which was, you need to work on yourself, was good advice. I didn't think that I needed it, and I did.
Yeah.
And when I'm really trying to channel her, then I do have the rounded vowel sounds that I want, and the lovely cadence and the deep voice, and I try. She was brilliant, and she was a young girl who came up from Appalachia. She could have passed for white, and she didn't. She didn't want to.
Okay.
She could read and write before the age of 5. She was brilliant, and her whole family uh, made it possible for her to go to college. They would be quiet at night so she could study. She went to college. She won an oratorical contest when she was in high school. Negro girl wins oratorical contest, the headline said of the newspaper.
Wow.
And she's from Gary, Indiana. And, for someone from Gary to win something back in probably what it was, the 20s or 30s, that was remarkable.
Right.
She was a force to be reckoned with. And so I don't know that she gave me advice. She gave me a role model, much bigger than I could have, shoes much bigger than I could fill, for sure. But I tried because she was great.
Awesome.
Dr. Y. Jean Chambers, honorary doctorate from Purdue University.
Okay. Is there any experience that you haven't had that you want to this point, Corya? Any bucket list items that you want to mention?
I'd like to see a sequoia. I would like to go out and see the big trees in California. When we go out there, which is annually, to attend John's baseball auction for his fantasy baseball team. We're always in Hollywood or Burbank or somewhere in LA. I'd like to take the side trip, and go see some big trees. I'd like to go back to Ireland. When I was there some 40 some years ago, I was just a kid. I really didn't know what it all meant to be in one's homeland, so to speak. I mean, it was fun and I had a good time, but I'd like to go back to Ireland and kind of soak it all in again.
Yeah. Take an international trip and see all the different places.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, we've been to Europe a couple of times and it's been very, very nice. I mean, we had a wonderful time. We went to London, Paris. John wants to go to Italy. I wouldn't mind that. That would be nice too.
Yeah.
But I'd like to go back to Ireland, and I know he wants to go back there too. And he's going to work on getting Irish citizenship because if Trump wins, that's where he wants.
Well, hey, I'll be joining you.
Yeah, right.
On the trip over, I'll become an expatriate. Yeah,
you'll get in. We've got the papers to prove it.
Since you are Dad's sister, I got to ask you this question because you know Dad the best. What do you think he would think of the show to this point? 130 episodes so far.
Oh, he would be so proud of you. Of course, you know that. I think he would be proud of you in the way that I was proud of him for how he innovated some of the music that he put together, that you've put this together yourself. You've built this. You've built this platform. You've engaged people by being, well, number one, you're engaging on your own. You ask good questions and you're responsive to people. And you have the, I'll just put chutzpah, as Dr. YG, chutzpah, to ask people to be on the show. I mean, some folks, they might have the talent, but they don't have the nerve,
right.
And they shy away from it. You haven't. You've gone after it. You've found good people, interesting people to talk to. I've listened to not all, but some of your podcasts.
Awesome.
They're fascinating. You ask very good questions and you have interesting people on.
Well, hey, this episode is no exception. Thank you, Aunt Corya, for
you're welcome.
Being on the program. It's such an honor to document a show. And let me say this to you,
yes.
As someone who loves school. I mean, when I think about it, I loved going to school and being a student. You're one of the people that instilled that in me, the importance of education and how it can help people grow as a human being. So thank you for your contribution.
Thank you. Oh, well, that's a very nice compliment. I appreciate that. Yeah. School is good. Schools are jails, though. That's what they used to say when I was coming up. Schools are jails, but they're not.
They are not. No. Is there anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No, this has been very nice, pleasurable. And I think we look really good. Look at all the red on the screen here. It all works, doesn't it?
I told you it'd be like Lawrence Welk. All we need is the bubbles, baby. That's it. That's all we need now.
Set design. That's my next goal, huh?
I need a new set. All I got's this trifold thing. So if you got any suggestions.
It works. Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I like it.
Well, hey, if you got any enhancements to what's already there, that's that's you.
Yesterday I went to an estate sale and I purchased, kind of on a whim, about 50 square quilt pattern things, and they're very, very bold. They're like things I would never have chosen, but they're all hand pieced and they're really nice. And I'm thinking about making a curtain out of this. Okay. And it would be super busy and way weird. So it might not work, but I'm thinking about it.
Well, hey, I need a direct material item that I can have on camera so it reminds me of you. So maybe the curtain behind that would be a good alternate background. I don't know.
It's kind of wild looking.
I'm wild. That's fine. It's fine with me. All right.
Quilting and all those sort of handcrafts, they have ascended to a high point now in couture clothing.
Uh-huh.
I'm obsessed with this clothing brand called Bode, Bode. Very, very, very expensive stuff that started out as antique quilts that were made into jackets for men to wear to the Oscars,
Mm,
that
okay.
kind of stuff. And so
Oh,
this quilting thing, it's new. It's old, becomes new again.
all right.
So it's
Um,
very,
hey, we'll wrap up
you
with
can
this.
cut all this, you can cut all this part out.
We're
Doesn't matter.
wrapping this up. It's
Okay.
all right. What's the restaurant we're going to next time you're in Indianapolis? What do you want? What are we doing?
Oh, well, I always like that Kona,
Yeah,
whatever that is.
Kona Jack's. It's a good place.
Yeah, I like that place.
Seafood.
Yeah, that's a good one. I
All right,
like that one.
good deal. We got.
Burger place, the Bubs, that's always good too.
You haven't done the big ugly challenge though. You got to get the picture on the
Oh,
wall.
oh no, no way.
Okay.
Oh, the
We'll
thought of that makes me ill.
we'll split one. That's what we'll do.
Oh, okay. All
All right.
right. Oh,
Um,
I
eh,
love you, Jimmy.
I love you, Aunt Corya.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
you're
I
the
bet
best.
not all your guests say I love you, but I do.
Well, I can guarantee you, I don't tell everybody I love you to them. So the love is there. Folks, to hear this episode and all others, make your way over to at JBK on air on all social media platforms, linktree.com/JBK on air for all things related to the show. And you can also donate to the program with the link in the description. Until next time, have a great day and a better tomorrow.